gives creativity, creativity leads to thinking, thinking provides knowledge, knowledge makes you great. So, here we are gathered to acquire knowledge which will lead us to become great in future. A very good morning and pleasant welcome to all the participants and resource persons and staffs of Department of Education and student of Department of Education. So here we have come together today for informative session. So I request Dr. A.L. Chidananda, Department of Education, to accompany the guests to the dais, and I request Ms. Lamy, MC, and Mr. Nagaraj florally welcome the guests. So now I formally welcome Dr. Muniraj, Finance Officer, Mangalore University. Ms. Lamy, ma'am, I request you to. Dr. Professor Madhi Gowda, today's first session resource person, I request Nagaraj sir to welcome him. I request Ms. Lamy MC, Lecturer of Department of Education, to read the citation of today's resource person. It is our pleasure in order to have Dr. Madhi Gowda sir here as our resource person. G. Madhav Gowda is currently working as a professor and Dean of Academics, Akshara Institute of Management Studies, Shivamogga. Hailing from an agricultural family in Mandya district, Professor Gowda had his early education in different institutions in Mandya district. He took his MCom degree in 1980 from the University of Mysore with first class and first rank, and received 2 gold medals for securing highest marks in MCom and in advanced course accounting. He started his teaching career as lecturer in 1980 with the postgraduate center Davangere, University of Mysore. And when this PG center became a part of newly established Coimbatore University, his services were transferred to Coimbatore University, wherein he worked as a reader and professor till his superannuation in February 2018. So far, he has published more than 75 research papers in the journals of repute and 25 books. Further, he has presented a large number of research papers in different national and international level conferences, seminars, and so on. Besides organizing more than 2 dozen seminars, conferences, workshops, etc., he guided 25 candidates in their MPhil and PhD degrees. Professor Gowda has also served Coimbatore University and its finance officer and vice chancellor for few months. He has also served as a member of different bodies of Coimbatore University, such as Academic Council, Senate Syndicate, Finance Committee, and so on, and as the chairman of Board of Studies, Board of Examiners, etc. He also worked as the Director, Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation Board, Coordinator of Internal Quality Assurance Cell, Chairman of the Department of Business Administration and Tourism Administration of Coimbatore University for few years. Thank you, sir.
Yes, good morning, friends. Honorable resource person of the day, you are very lucky. Professor Madhi Gowda sir is an authority in accounts and research in the country. We know that the topic ethics, research ethics. Very apt to you are going to invite. I compliment Dr. Chidananda because Professor Madhi Gowda sir is, there is no one iota or point 100 point to what is said and practice. As far as academics are concerned or his personal lives are concerned, what is said is action. What is action is said. There is no single gap, even 0.1. He is a highly respectable professor in our commerce community in all over the country as well. So you are very lucky to have this. I am very sorry because I have to attend about this. You can ask any universities in the country. If you say Madhegowda sir, people are highly respected. His word itself is respected. So he has a vast experience and sir has discharged from as far as teachings are concerned, administration is concerned, from bottom to top in the university system. As a syndicate member, as a vice chancellor, board of studies, the dean, and framing the syllabus, whatever we are framing the syllabus, we are always request Madhegowda sir for his inputs. And you will see that he is a student, wherever he is working about that, they are also demonstrated the ethics in research. Sir, thank you very much. We are very happy on behalf of our Mangalore University, very happy about that as a resource person. Thank you very much.
Now I request our resource person to take over the session.
Respected Dr. Chidanand, highly respected faculty members of this department, and all researchers from different departments of this temple of higher learning, and ladies and gentlemen. At the outset, let me thank Dr. Chidanand and his friends, including Dr. Nagaraj, for providing me an opportunity to talk to you, because you are the intellectual, so that I can discuss certain aspects of ethics in research with you. Friends, I am planning this way. Initially, I will take 1 hour 30 minutes to make my presentation. Then at the end, we can have the interaction. If it is inevitable, you need not worry, you can interrupt even in the middle. There is no problem for me. Friends, for this session, now I am going to discuss a few aspects like the background for my lecture on ethics in research, then the applicability of regulations developed and notified by the University Grants Commission, which is applicable even for engineering colleges governed by AICTE, because AICTE has yet to develop its own regulations governing the academic integrity and the prevention of plagiarism in publications. Then I will be discussing about the objectives, then curbing plagiarism, exclusions from plagiarism, then the levels of plagiarism, then the detection, reporting and handling of plagiarism, then the panels at the institutional level to investigate into the complaints of plagiarism and to take appropriate against the concerned person. Then the penalties, this is another important aspect. And finally, I will give a few examples highlighting the shortcomings in the system which the universities are using to check the percentage of similarities, like Urkud or Ternate. There are certain shortcomings in the system. I'll give certain examples based on the actual reports received from the service providers. So this is how I have planned for my presentation. Friends, of course all of you are aware about the commendable developments, achievements by the country, and this is commendable if you consider the constraints within which the country is functioning. You take any area of economy, you find substantial improvement, remarkable development. Still, the improvements are inadequate. Developments are not sufficient, keeping in mind the demand for these services. And this is true even in the case of higher education and doctoral works. Just a few statistics. Between 1950-51 and 2019-20, please remember, at the time of a country's independence, the country had less number of manual typewriters than the number of laptops this researchers group is having today. Forget about the Mangalore University. We had just a very few manual typewriters. Now we have come to this stage. This is a commendable achievement. Even the number of universities increased from 30 to 1043. Colleges affiliated to different universities plus stand-alone institutions from 695 to 42,342 plus another 11,799 stand-alone institutions. The students' enrollment for higher education has increased from 3.97 lakhs in 1950-51 to 385 lakhs now. And the number of teachers from 23,000 to 15 lakh 3,156. These statistics convey the substantial improvement in the educational services. But still, it is inadequate. Inadequate because in the case of higher education, that is, education for the students in the age group of 18 to 23 years, 18 to 23, now the country is able to provide education only for 27.1%. Gross enrollment ratio for higher education is only 27.1%. This means the remaining 72.9% of the candidates in the age group of 18 to 23 years is deprived of higher education. Of course, the only satisfactory development is the GRE in the case of female is slightly higher, 27.3% as against male 26.9. Till recently, reverse was the case. Now it is female higher than the male. Friends, now friends, these higher educational institutions, both the universities and the colleges, have devised and introduced about 196 programs of studies. I am not mentioning or talking about the number of courses. Say MCOM is a program of study. In MCOM, the students study about 24 courses. So I am talking about the number of programs of study, 196. And out of these 196, only 10 programs of studies have attracted about 79% of students enrolled for higher education. That means the remaining 186 programs of studies have just 21% of students enrolled for higher education. And at the UG level, the maximum enrollment is for BA with 32.7%, BSc 16%, BCom 14.9%, and engineering and technology 12.6%. So very shortly, now you may find BCom overtaking BSc, because there is a continuous increase in the number of enrollments for BCom, BBA, etc. Now, in the whole country, among all districts in the country, Bangalore urban district has the highest number of colleges. 1009 colleges, the highest in any district in the country. And the college density, that is the number of colleges per lakh of eligible population, it is very wide. It varies from 7 in Bihar to 59 in Karnataka. Again, Karnataka stands first in terms of college density. As against the national average of 30 colleges per lakh eligible candidates. Friends, now with this liberalization, not only the postgraduate departments of universities, but also the colleges affiliated to universities, constituent colleges of universities, autonomous colleges are also permitted to offer PG courses. Out of a large number, only 35% of the colleges are offering PG. Though 35% of the colleges which are offering PG program are eligible to offer doctoral programs. As per the UGC regulations, only the colleges which are offering the PG programs are eligible to offer doctoral degree program in the subject concerned. So these 35.04% of the colleges are eligible to offer doctoral degree programs either in one subject or the other. But unfortunately, just 2.7% of these colleges are offering PG doctoral degree. Out of 35% of eligible, only 2.7% of the colleges are offering doctoral degree programs. Friends, now during the last 10 or 15 years, two important developments took place. One is linking the recruitment to doctoral degree, number one. Two, linking promotion of teachers in universities and colleges to doctoral degree and the number of research publications. And three, linking award of PhD degree to the publications. At least one research publication before submitting the thesis. Now, these three developments led to a substantial increase in the enrollment for doctoral degrees and also the number of research papers published. Now, the number of PhDs awarded increased from 7,438 in 84-85 to 38,986 in 1920. This is only one figure. Now, at the global level, in terms of number of PhDs awarded annually, India stands in the 4th place. The 4th largest country in the world in terms of number of PhDs awarded every year. Within the country, Tamil Nadu tops the list, followed by Karnataka. Tamil Nadu and Karnataka occupy the first two places in terms of number of PhDs awarded annually. And besides these degrees awarded, now this is only a few figures during the last 10 to 12 years about the increase in the number of PhDs awarded. Now, besides these degrees awarded, about 2.03 lakh candidates, 2,03,000 candidates have enrolled for their doctoral degrees in different institutions and the universities. 2,03,000. And the maximum number is in the Faculty of Science and Technology. Within this Faculty of Science and Technology, the subjects like chemistry, mathematics, physics, zoology, etc. have attracted maximum number of candidates for doctoral degrees. Friends, of these 2,03,000 candidates who have registered for their PhD, 29.8% have registered in state public universities, state universities. 23.2% in institutes of national importance. They are not offering any affiliation facilities, stand-alone universities. They are recognized by the Government of India, by the Ministry of Education as the university, institutes of national importance. Then 13.9% of the candidates are registered in deemed to be universities. One of the reasons is the difference in the fee structure between the state public universities and the deemed to be universities. You will find at least 40 times higher. Of course, even the state public universities have started charging higher amount for doctoral degree. Now, earlier there was no fees except the adjudication fee. Now we have varieties of fees including desk fee. I do not know what is this. Okay. Some universities charge desk fee also. I do not know. But the point is, even now there is a difference in terms of fee structure between the state public universities and the deemed to be universities and the private universities. Of course, there is a justification because they have to earn at least the minimum from their courses to run their show because they are not funded by the governments. Then 13.6% in central universities. Of course, there are a very few central universities, say 50 plus compared to 1,000 other universities. Then out of total enrollment for PhD, 1.79 lakh students have registered with the university departments and their constituent colleges, and the remaining 24,185 in affiliated colleges. Now, as far as the publication is concerned, now even now, there is no official, reliable, trustworthy information about the year-wise number of publications by all the faculty members and the researchers. But a rough figure states this at 1,95,590 per annum. This is also not reliable, but this is the only information available in the websites. But what is important is the increase in the number of research papers published is directly influenced by the UGC's decision to make publication of at least one paper by the researcher before submitting his thesis. Now this, of course, a few universities have increased the minimum number of publications from 1 to 2 or 1 to 3. And most importantly, they have made it mandatory to publish at least 2 research papers either in UGC care list journals or Scopus indexed journals. At this stage, let me share a piece of information. I have gone through the policy guidelines of some of the Scopus indexed journals. Of course, almost all reputed journals have rigorous evaluation process. But some journals, including some of the Scopus indexed journals, levy a fee. Of course, it is not an article submission fee, not for publishing, but they call it as article processing charges, APC. Now this is in terms of US dollars, about $1,000, just 1,000 US dollars or $2,000. Now how can a researcher can pay 2,000 US dollars to get his or her paper reviewed, not for publication, for processing they charge. Most of these journals, now they are charging. Now therefore it is very difficult. Okay, anyhow, let us not bother about this. And this increase has also contributed to the increase in the number of journals, including online journals. If you want your paper published tomorrow, you can do so by paying some amount. There are plenty of online journals, and most importantly, some of the journals are paid journals. They don't correct even the grammatical error. If you have put AS instead of HAS, they print or publish as AS only, not HAS. Because the payment is more important. Now anyhow, now this stipulation by the University Grants Commission has resulted in the increase in the number of papers published, increase in the number of journals, increase in the number of online journals, and increase in the number of paid journals. Friends, of course I have summarized here. Now because of this linking of PhDs, publications with the appointment, career advancements, PhDs, resulted in the increase in the number of PhDs, journals, papers. But most worrying thing is, this has also resulted in the increase in the rate of decline in the quality of PhDs. increase in the rate of decline. This we have to look into. And also the increase in the rate of decline in the quality of research papers published. One of the difficulties nowadays is the availability of almost all details online. Now this is the dangerous development, because anybody can copy and change certain things and publish as if it is its own. Now anyhow, there is an increase in the decline in the rate of quality, and there is also an increase in the number of plagiarism cases, tarnishing the reputation of not only the institution but also the country. And some journals publish without plagiarism check. They publish as it is, even without alignment. Friends. Now in this battle, that is, due to the continuous and substantial increase in the number of PhDs, publications, plagiarism cases, the University Grants Commission, as the apex body of higher educational institutions, constituted a committee to recommend as to how to curb this menace. And this committee submitted its report in 2017, and this was uploaded to UGC website, requesting academicians, students, researchers to comment, to offer suggestions for improvement, for modification. Based on the comments, criticisms, suggestions received, the University Grants Commission finalized this regulation called UGC, Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Educational Institutions, 2018. And this is applicable. This regulation of 2018 is applicable for all higher education institutions in the country, including universities, deemed to be universities, affiliated colleges, autonomous colleges, constituent colleges, private universities, institutes of national importance, etc. And these regulations are also applicable to 4 categories of stakeholders: students, faculty, researchers, and staff. The word staff is used in the regulations to mean non-teaching staff of the institutions. So the regulations are applicable for the students, faculty, researchers, and the non-teaching staff. And it is applicable for both regular teachers, ad hoc, guest faculty, temporary, visiting faculty, and the non-teaching, whether they are permanent or temporary. Friends. And of course, this has been given effect from 31st July 2018. Okay. Now, let me give a few details about certain terms used in the regulations and also in my presentation. Of course, some of the terms are familiar to you, but they are very specific in the regulations. Now, author, of course, includes all the 4 categories: students, teachers, researchers, and the non-teaching staff, who claim to be the creator of the work under consideration. Not all faculty members, but only those faculty members who claim that they have prepared this paper, they have published this paper belongs to them, they have the copyright, intellectual property right. So they are considered as the authors. Program, of course, generally it refers to programs of studies, but here it refers to both the master's level degree and the doctoral degree, because there are a few institutions which offer MSc by research. So there are certain institutions. So it covers both the master's and the research level degrees. Then the academic integrity is the intellectual honesty in proposing, performing or reporting an activity which leads to the creation of intellectual property. Something new which was not existing till now. Say for example, all of us have the pens, writing pads. There is no speciality. Your pen writes only when you write. Suppose, if I am able to develop a pen which is capable of writing on its own, on my instruction, something new, unique, because at present there is no such type of a pen. Now, this is a part of intellectual property. You can register. You become the owner of this and prohibit all others from unauthorized use of this. Then common knowledge, which is known to all of us. Say India got independence in 1947. It is a common knowledge known to everyone. Of course, there are a few intelligent people who do not know this. And information includes data, image, message, text, sound, voice, codes, computer programs, software, databases, microfilm, even there is a category called self-plagiarism. Self. Say 2 years ago you published a report. Now you have published another paper. In the second paper, you have copied a paragraph from your first paper. That is the self-plagiarism. Right. Anyhow, you have the permission to publish. Anyhow, you should quote this. Okay. Then we have the script. It includes research paper also, publications. Then the thesis, dissertation, chapters in books, full-fledged books, and any other similar work submitted for the award of a degree, either the master's level or the doctoral degree. But this regulation excludes two important aspects. One is the assignment, students' assignment. They do not fall into the category of plagiarism. Then the project reports, of course, there is a different opinion about the project report, students' project reports. Some say that it is not a part of plagiarism, others agree that it is a part of a plagiarism. Anyhow, it is published, that is submitted to the university for the award of degree. And the third one is answer scripts of the students. They do not fall within the scope of these regulations. They are excluded. Then the source, it may be the primary or the secondary source, whether it is published or unpublished. Say a PhD thesis has been submitted but not published. You have used this. So it is an unpublished. Still you have to recognize, acknowledge the source. Then the material from any source, and includes written information, opinions, even while delivering a lecture. If a person makes certain comments, presents certain ideas which are new, now the person, the resource person is the copyright owner. You cannot copy this. Written information, opinions gained directly from other people, including eminent scholars, public figures, practitioners, etc., in any form. It also includes data and information, either in electronic form, audio, video, image or text. And the plagiarism, this is the center of today's discussion, is the practice of taking someone's work. Now, he has published a research paper, but I claim this in my paper. I also publish another paper, taking major portion from his published research paper. When I publish, it becomes my IPR. It is my paper, but it is originally published by researcher. So I cannot claim others' work as my own. Someone's work or idea and passing them as one's own. This is an important aspect. Now, for the purpose of, for dual purposes, one is to encourage academic integrity at the higher educational institutions, and if there is any plagiarism, to punish them. The regulations suggest two panels, one at the department level and another one at the university level. Say Mangalore University has 30 PG departments. For each PG department, the Mangalore University has to constitute a committee called Departmental Academic Integrity Panel. And in addition to these 30 departmental integrity academic integrity panels, the university must have another institution level academic integrity panel. So for a university, there will be one institutional academic integrity panel and 30 plus, depending upon the number of PG departments, departmental academic integrity panels. Now, the departmental academic integrity panel, whenever it receives a complaint about the plagiarism, it investigates and reports to the institutional academic integrity panel about its findings and also recommends the penalties. And the institutional academic integrity panel reviews this. Review, the word review is very comprehensive. It can change. If the institutional academic integrity panel is not satisfied with the investigation done by the departmental level, it can send it back to re-examine. It can modify the penalties. It can either increase the penalty or reduce. So this has the power to review the recommendations of a departmental academic integrity panel. Sometimes this institutional academic integrity panel can take up the investigation work on its own if necessary. And of course, there are two important objectives. One is to create awareness among students, teachers, researchers and non-teaching staff about the ill effects of plagiarism, about the need for ensuring academic integrity and to see that no similarity crept in their work. So to create awareness, sensitization programs similar to the one which the Department of Education is conducting now. The second one is, of course, there are cases wherein certain plagiarism complaints have been received in spite of the university making effort to see that no plagiarism has taken place. Some cases have been lodged, filed. Then it is necessary to investigate and to punish the concerned student or the researcher or the faculty member or the non-teaching staff. So this one is preventive and this is of course precautionary. This is more important, first one. Second one is, now if it goes beyond, if they exceed, if they do not listen to the institution, then punish them. Prevent the plagiarism and punish those who commit the act of plagiarism. Friends, of course here I have given certain sensitization programs like the workshops, seminars to be arranged for the benefit of students, researchers, faculty members and the non-teaching staff to create awareness. But let me focus on one important aspect. Now number 3. Now here the regulations require the research supervisors, of course whenever the candidates submit their thesis, the research supervisors have to give a certificate stating 2 things. One is the researcher has done the work under his guidance. 2, this work has not been submitted to any other university for the award of any other degree. These are the 2 things in the certificate, guides certificate. But now the University Grants Commission has added one more dangerous clause. The clause is the research supervisor has to certify that the thesis prepared by a candidate under his guidance is plagiarism free. If there are any similarities, then the institution can take action against the research supervisor. Okay. Now anyhow, these are certain activities which the institution has to carry out to create awareness among the stakeholders. And of course, the UGC regulations also require the institutions to upload all doctoral theses, research publications to their websites, besides uploading to InflipNet. Of course, now the universities are doing number 5, but most of the universities are not doing number 4. So even at the university level, they have to upload their PhD thesis, research papers published in their websites. Friends, now there are 2 important categories of exclusions. Even if there is a similarity between your work and the work by others, they do not fall into the category of similarities. It is not a case of plagiarism. There are 2 specific exclusions. One is, it excludes common knowledge, which is known to everyone. This is one. Second one is coincidental terms up to 14 consecutive words. You can use up to 14, not more than 14. If you use 14 or less than 14, it is not a plagiarism. If it exceeds 14 words at a time in one particular sentence, then it is a part of a plagiarism. But the regulation is silent on one important aspect, namely whether it is to mean only 14 consecutive words once in the entire thesis or any number of times. This is not clear. So it simply states coincidental terms up to 14 consecutive words. So you have used once 13 words from others. So it is not a plagiarism. In the second chapter also you have used 13 words from another author. Now whether it is a part of a plagiarism or not, because the regulation is silent. Whether it applies to only once or any number of times, but not exceeding 14 words at a time. This needs a clarification from the University Grants Commission. Now the second important exclusion is now the similarity. All quoted works reproduced with necessary permission or attribution. Most of the researchers quote others' work with necessary attribution, mentioning the source from which they have taken. But majority of the researchers do not take the permission from the original author. Okay? But the problem is, you have mentioned the source. The source from which you have collected this. But Urkund, whether it is able to exclude this. If it does not exclude, then it becomes a part of plagiarism. So the system, plagiarism detection system, should be modified to exclude this type of exclusions. All quoted works, bibliography, table of content, preface, acknowledgement, generic terms, laws, standard symbols, standard equations, etc. Now, while uploading your thesis to Urkund for similarity check, now you should exclude this. Table of contents, table of figures, then the chapters, preface, acknowledgement, abbreviation, all are to be excluded. Only after removing these portions, you can give it to the librarian for similarity check. Otherwise, what will happen? Bibliography. You have used one source. Any number of research can use the same source with the same words. So the Urkund states that it is 100% plagiarism. Therefore, we should exclude these references and bibliography while submitting your thesis to the librarian or to the concerned university officer for similarity check. Now, depending upon the percentage of similarity between your work and the work of others. So, my work and the work of all other researchers. Now, I am submitting my thesis. I am submitting my research paper. Now, the plagiarism detection system compares my work with the works of a large number of authors. Compares with n number of works and ascertains the percentage of similarity between my work and that of others. Depending upon the percentage of similarity, the level of plagiarism has been classified into 4 categories. One is level 0. If the percentage of similarity does not exceed 10%. If it is 10% or less than 10%, it is level 0 plagiarism. Unfortunately, some of the editors of reputed journals require less than 10% plagiarism. They don't look at less than or equal to. So anyhow, level 0 means it does not, the percentage of similarity does not exceed 10%. If it is 10% or less than 10%, then it is permitted to submit. Is it clear? Level 1. Of course, there is a wide gap between the minimum and the maximum. Okay. Now, if it is more than 10%, but less than or equal to 40% similarity between one work and others, 10 to 40, then it is called level 1 plagiarism. Now this is important because the penalty depends upon the levels. Now level 2, if it is between 40 and 60%, percentage of similarity. But remember, there is no rationality here. Suppose the percentage of similarity is 10.001, then it becomes a part of level. Attracts the penalty. And see the range, 10 to 40, and here it is only 20. So there should be a rationale in fixing the range, slabs. Okay, anyhow, level 1 between 10% and 40%. Level 2, 40 to 60% similarity. If it exceeds 40 but less than or equal to 60%, then it is called level 2 plagiarism. Level 3, if it exceeds 60%, the maximum. Two extremes, 0, higher than 60%. These are the 4 levels of plagiarism, and the penalty depends upon the level of plagiarism. Friends, now if any member, now here, now who has to complain? Now if any member of academic community suspects with verifiable evidence, evidence which anybody can examine, verify. Say for example, myself and Dr. Nagaraj both have published 2 different research papers. Myself and Dr. Nagaraj, 2 different research papers. But major portions in both the papers is same, an exact replica, tadrupi. Now, anybody can verify. They can compare my paper with the paper published by Dr. Nagaraj. Verifiable evidence. Not just rumor. There shall be concrete evidence to show that this is an act of plagiarism. So when a member of academic community suspects that a case of plagiarism has happened in any document, then he can report to the Departmental Academic Integrity. Okay, anybody, any member of the academic community. But here, why the UGC regulations have restricted it to only the academic community? Anybody can complain, because there is no bar. There shall be no bar for anyone to complain that so and so has copied from others. If it is genuine, let anybody can comply. But the regulations say that only the member of academic community, either the student or the faculty member or staff or the researcher, they can complain. Now when the complaint is received, the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel investigates, compares. Then it prepares its report, recommends the kind of a penalty to institutional academic integrity panel. So the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel examines the case of plagiarism and submits its report along with the kind of penalty to the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel. And the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel has to review the recommendations of a Departmental Academic Integrity Panel and then recommend it to the authority of the university. And the authorities of higher education can also take notice of an act of plagiarism, and if nobody complains, and if the university realizes that there is a plagiarism, on its own it can initiate the investigation. There is no need for anyone to complain. If it comes to the notice of the higher educational institution, it can initiate the investigation. And similarly, proceedings can also be initiated by higher educational institutions on the basis of the findings of the examiner. Now, when I use here, now this is the word used by the University Grants Commission in its regulations. Now, the UGC Grants Commission, University Grants, I'm sorry, not UGC Grants Commission, University Grants Commission intends to convey the adjudicator of a PhD thesis, because the answer scripts evaluated by the examiners are excluded from the plagiarism check. Students' answer scripts do not fall into the category of plagiarism, but the doctoral thesis, they fall into the case of category of plagiarism. I remember one instance long back, about 15, 18 years ago. An examiner received a PhD thesis for adjudication. Examiner or adjudicator from other universities. Say Mangalore University sent a PhD thesis to a professor in Kakatiya University. So that examiner started reading the PhD thesis, and after reading it for about 15 to 20 minutes, he realized that the theme is very familiar to him. That the sentence structure is also familiar to him. But he was not able to ascertain what is something new. So he closed the thesis, and again after 15 days he started reading, again he got the same feeling. Then, without any intention, he opened his own PhD thesis, made a comparison. The thesis sent by the university was an exact replica of his own thesis. Friends, please remember, if the university had sent this thesis to another examiner, the researcher would have got the PhD degree. Now anyhow, PhD evaluation or adjudication reports become the base for initiating investigation if there is any case of similarity. Now it is very easy. Earlier it was not possible. Now you can easily compare. You can get a comparison between your own work and others because of the developments in information technology. Friends, now this is about the composition of a departmental academic integrity panel. It should comprise HOD as the chairman of the panel, then a senior academician from outside the department as a member. Again, the regulation is silent, whether it is from, say for example, education department. Outside means, what is it, a professor from history or from other university? Because a history professor is not able to comment on the cases of similarities in PhD thesis in education, and vice versa. Therefore, UGC has to clarify, say from the same discipline from other universities. Then another person well versed with anti-plagiarism. Normally, the technical person, either the in charge of librarian or any other officer is the competent person. And the term is 2 years and the quorum is 2. And now in this case again, suppose if there is a case pertaining to a PhD thesis. So someone has complained that a PhD thesis comprised some portion extracted from others. Okay. Now in this case, now the guide of that candidate is the right person to comment. So in the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel, there shall be a provision for the research supervisor whenever his or her candidate's case is investigated. Because he is the right person to clarify. And it requires the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel to submit the report within 45 days from the date of receipt of the complaint. And most importantly, it requires the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel to follow the principles of natural justice. Provide adequate opportunity to the concerned person, either the researcher or the faculty member, to give his version. So there is a complaint, you cannot take unilateral decision. You should give an opportunity to other party to expand his view. So the principles of natural justice should be ensured. And similarly, the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel. Whenever the time is over, please remind me, okay? Right. Just 2 minutes earlier to your scheduled time. Okay. Similar to Departmental Academic Integrity Panel, we have Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, comprising the Pro-Vice Chancellor. Of course, most of the universities do not have the Pro-Vice Chancellor. Either the Dean or the Senior Academician will be the chairman of this panel. Then a Senior Academician as member, one person from outside higher education, from other university. This is more clear. And a person well versed with anti-plagiarism. And most importantly, the chairman of both the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel and the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel should not be the same person. Both should be different. Because as the chairman of a Departmental Academic Integrity Panel, he makes certain recommendation. As the chairman of Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, he has to accept because it is his own report. Of course, there are peculiar cases. Once a professor sent a proposal to the university for some grant. So as usual, there was no reply. There was an inordinate delay. After some time, the same professor became the registrar of that university. So the file was placed before the registrar. Registrar sent back to the college stating that this proposal is unfit for funding. Proposal prepared by the same person was rejected by the same person. So this shall not happen. Therefore, the chairman of both the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel, then the Institutional Academic Integrity Panel should be different. And the tenure is 3 years and the quorum is 3. Of course, again it talks about the review of recommendations of a Departmental Academic Integrity Panel and also the penalty. After review, it has to submit its report to the authority of the university for taking final decision. And of course, both the departmental and the institutional academic integrity panels should provide the copies of their report to the student or the researcher concerned. Friends, now let me take up the penalty portion. Now here, the penalties recommended or stipulated differ from doctoral thesis to research publications. So the regulations differentiate between the penalties for the plagiarism in doctoral thesis and the penalties for plagiarism in research publication, research papers or the articles. Now, it also specifies that the penalty should be imposed only when the case of plagiarism is established beyond doubt. There shall be no doubt or confusion about the case of plagiarism. Only when there is no doubt, undoubtedly established, then the penalty can be imposed. Even then, before imposing penalty, necessary opportunities should be given to the person to make an appeal to higher authorities. But unfortunately, regulations is silent on the appeal mechanism. So we have Departmental Academic Integrity Panel, then institutional. About this, who is the higher authority? Maybe the Vice Chancellor or the Registrar. So, but regulation is silent, and this needs a clarification. And the regulations specify the penalties for plagiarism in thesis and academic or research publications separately. Friends, for the level 0 plagiarism, if the percentage of similarity is 10% or less than 10%, then no penalty in both the cases, thesis and the research publications, because the similarity is minor. But remember, suppose if it is very close to 10 or 10%, on the one hand, we have a thesis with the 10% similarity. Second thesis with the 10.001% similarity. So, now the variation. Now anyhow, for level 0, there is no penalty. But still, it is necessary to ensure that it does not encroach upon IPR, intellectual property rights. Say for example, in the entire thesis, running about 500 pages, you have copied 20 pages. 20 pages pertaining to the core area of your study from a well-known personality. 20 pages out of 500 pages. It is less than 10. So you pass this, but still there is a difficulty. So the UGC has to look into this aspect. Then level 1, if the percentage of similarity is between 10% and 40%, then the candidate researcher shall be asked to submit a revised script within a stipulated period not exceeding 6 months. But in the case of research publication, now it is applicable to the institutions wherein the faculty member or the researchers have to get their papers checked at the institutional level before submitting to any other journal. Now in this case, if the percentage exceeds 10% but less than 40%, not exceeding 40%, then the script should be withdrawn. So you shall not be permitted to publish this paper if the percentage of similarity is between 10 and 40%. Madam, am I disturbing you? Right. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, because I don't have any right to disturb anybody, right? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Now level 2, because I'm a very bad teacher. Always look at all the faces of the students. Right, okay. Doesn't matter. Now level 2, 40 to 60%. Now here, the candidate shall be debarred from submitting a revised script for a period of at least 1 year. So he will not be allowed to submit the thesis for 1 year. And in the case of a research publication, shall be asked to withdraw. This is as in the case of level 1, plus if it is in the case of a teacher, then he shall be denied a right to 1 annual increment and shall not be allowed to supervise any new master's, MPhil, PhD student or scholars for a period of 2 years. This is for the faculty members. Level 3, the candidate's registration in the case of a PhD, doctoral thesis, candidate's registration for the program shall be cancelled. If it exceeds 60%, then his registration shall be cancelled. And in the case of research publications, of course, it shall be withdrawn, shall be denied 2 successive annual increments and shall not be allowed to supervise any researcher for the next 3 years. Friends, in the case of repeating, Mr. X has committed a mistake of a plagiarism once, he was punished. Again, after 6 months, he committed once again a repeated plagiarism. So you find similarities in all the papers, at least 2 papers published, one after another, repeated. Such students in the case of, so even if it is resubmitted, shall be punished for the plagiarism of 1 level higher than the previous level. Suppose in the previous case it was level 1, then the applicable punishment. Now it is, even if it is level 1, you should be given 1 level of higher punishment than the previous. Then in case where plagiarism of highest level is committed, then the punishment for the same shall be operated. And here, withdrawal of manuscript, punished for plagiarism of 1 level higher than the previous level committed by him. If it is highest level, then the same 3 punishment. If it is repeated, in the case of faculty members and the staff, if level 3 plagiarism is repeated again by the same person, then the university has to think of terminating his services, suspending him or terminating depending upon KCSR, Karnataka Civil Service rules. Now, suppose the research degree has already been awarded or the research paper has already been published. After award or after publication, the plagiarism has come to the light. The candidate submitted the thesis, the university awarded after following the procedure. After the award of a PhD degree, the case of a plagiarism has come to the light. Then, if a plagiarism is proved on a date subsequent to the date of award of degree or credit, then his degree or credit shall be put in abeyance for thorough investigation. Then only the university has to take the final decision. Similarly, in the case of research publication, shall be put in abeyance for a period recommended by IAIP and approved by the head of the institution, say the vice chancellor or the registrar concerned. Friends, now here, suppose there is a complaint of plagiarism against a member of either the departmental or institutional academic integrity panel. Now, till now we discussed about others, other than the members of DAIP and IAIP. Suppose now, if there is a complaint of a plagiarism against any member or the chairman of either the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel or Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, then now the regulations require that consent person to abstain, not to attend the meeting. Now this is not sufficient. If it is proved, they should be removed from the panel. Similarly, if there is a case against the head of the institution, say director of the school or some university vice chancellors, say for example about 5 or 6 years ago, the then sitting vice chancellor had to resign because his research scholar published a paper copying from others in the joint names, putting even the vice chancellor, the then research guide, as the co-author. The case went to the President of India, and the President of India asked the vice chancellor to resign immediately. See, if there is a case against the higher authority, then the institution has to devise appropriate mechanism to investigate and punish the concerned officer. Of course, I have. Now, let me brief about 2 instances of plagiarism detective mechanism and the shortcomings in this mechanism. Now, both the instances are very well known to me because both were guided by me. Since both were guided by me, I know each and every part of the report. So let me take only a few minutes to present the shortcomings in the plagiarism detection mechanism recommended by the Ministry of Education, used by almost all universities in the country. So the first case, now it was in 2017, before the introduction of this regulation. Before 2018, there was no specification about the maximum percentage of permissible similarities. Therefore, each university had its own policy. Some universities had 20% as the maximum, others 30%, 40%, 10%. So each university had this. So in 2017, the researcher submitted the thesis running to about 450 pages. 450. When it was uploaded to Urkun, she did not get the report for 24 hours. Because usually the Urkut provides the plagiarism report within 15 minutes. But in this case, even after 1 day, the researcher did not get the report. Then the university authorities contacted the service provider, and the service providers advised to split the thesis into 2 and to upload one after another. So the university authorities did the same thing. First 3 chapters as one unit, then the last 3 chapters as another part. They uploaded both the parts, and immediately the university received the plagiarism report. For the first part, the percentage of similarity was 26. For the second part, 28. So the university authorities calculated the simple average, 26 plus 28 divided by 2, 27. Since at that point of time, the maximum permissible acceptable limit was 30%. The researcher submitted the report. Thesis. After submission, curiously, both the researcher and myself went through the plagiarism report, running to 540 or 70 pages. On a thesis of 450, plagiarism report was running to 500 plus pages. Remember, about 9 or 9.5 font size, single line, but in the case of a thesis, 12 font, 1.5 line. So 500 plus page report on a thesis running to 450. So when we went through, to our surprise, we found that for the first part uploaded to the plagiarism detection mechanism, it considered the second part as original and stated lot of similarities in the first part. Similarly, for the second part, the first part of the thesis was considered as original and the contents in the second part was considered as similarities, plagiarism, and therefore they provided this 26 and 28% of similarities. But remember, this, that is, similarities in the first chapter, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, does not fall even to self-plagiarism. It is not a case of even the self-plagiarism. It is his own thesis, split into two parts. How can you say there is a repetition in the first part of the second part and vice versa? Suppose, if the university had 10% maximum limit, what would have been the fate of the researcher? For no fault of the researcher, the researchers had to pay the penalty because of this system. This is one. Now the second thing is, we observed in the thesis again, of course, literature review part. Literature review. Usually, in the text of the review, we mention the names of the author. Everyone, whether it is reviewed by Mr. X or Mr. Y, all of us mention the names of the original authors. Now it compares my work with Mr. Shekhar. Both have mentioned in one particular sentence. Sentence comprising 10 words. 2 names. 2 words out of 10 words are common. So the report states 20% plagiarism. See? It is not a plagiarism. Anybody who reviews the work of the earlier researchers invariably mention their names. It is required. The same UGC regulations state that you should attribute, acknowledge the source. If you mention 20%, 2 words out of 10 words, is it plagiarism? This is about the first part. Now in the second thesis, again guided by me, there was much more surprising contents in the report. Of course, the report, of course we got, when the thesis was uploaded in 2021, last year. So the percentage of similarity was 13%. Since it exceeded 10%, so the researcher had to revise the thesis and resubmit. And of course, the researcher did the same thing, and when it was submitted after revision, so we got 1% similarity. I will give how we got this 1% as a original 13%. Okay. Again, after submission of a thesis, we went through the plagiarism report. We found 3 or 4 important findings. One is, now this study was on 2 cooperative textile mills in Karnataka. Cooperative mills. At present only 2 mills are functioning. So this researcher worked on this. Earlier to this, one more MCOM student worked on the same 2 mills, but on different topics. But the units of study were same. Both the MCOM student and this PhD student. Now the MCOM student completed his MCOM long back, and his project report was available in the website. Okay. And when my researcher uploaded the thesis was compared with this project report. One major finding was this. See, Gadag Cooperative Textile Mills Limited, Vanahatti. This is my candidate used in his thesis. MCOM student in his project report, Gadag Cooperative Textile Mill Limited, Banahatti. What is the percentage of similarity? 87%. Is it a plagiarism? Now we have to say Mr. X is Mr. X. Just because of the reason that this teacher has called him as Mr. X, I cannot use a different name. Name of the firm is Gadag, Gadag Cooperative Textile Mills. Whoever works on this invariably has to use this name. But still has given as plagiarism, 87%. And in the entire thesis, the author or researcher used in 129 places the names of this. While analyzing the performance, invariably the researcher has to use the name of the firm. 129 places he used. In all the 129 places, it gave 87%. Then I suggested my researcher to use GCTML abbreviation, and all 129 cases of similarities were removed when the thesis was submitted after revision, just by using abbreviations. Similarly, both the companies, so this is another word. Say for example, when the performance of one company is compared with another, we come to a conclusion whether the performance of the first company is better when compared to second, whether it is higher. Any researcher uses the word better, it is inevitable. Still, Urkund reported there is a 46% percentage of similarity. Then, of course, then in most of the, especially in the case of commerce management, tourism, economics, we use a lot of tables. Tables prepared with the help of the data collected from the annual reports of different companies. And at the end of the table, we are required to mention the source from which the data are collected. So there are 2 ways. Sorry. Okay, let me wind up this, because this experience during the last 45 years has taught me either to prolong the lecture or to condense, okay, without compromising on the quality of the lecture. Okay, let me complete this. And here, in the source, there are two ways. One is, most of the researchers collect the data, reproduce the same in their thesis. Therefore, they mention, say, source, say, annual reports, Karnataka State Finance Corporation, Bangalore, say 2021-22 or 2021. But there are some researchers who collect the data, analyze this, make certain calculations, and the results of these calculations are presented in the table, not as obtained from the annual reports. The necessary calculations are made and the results of the calculations are presented in the table. Therefore, the researchers use this to compile the table based on the data collected from the annual reports. Now, first researcher and the second both did under my guidance. Since I was the guide, now my style of writing is slightly different. So, I advised to use this tool, both. And the Urkund provided 100% similarity. Possible. See here, this is not the core area of your study. This is not the subject matter. Just you are mentioning the source from which you have collected the data presented in your table. It cannot be considered as a plagiarism. Still, the system provided 100% similarity. And in all the 63 tables, so second researcher used 63 tables. In all the 63 tables he used the same tool, and for all 63 it provided 100%. Then I advised my second researcher to remove this, just to use source GCTML and BCSML. And this removed 69 cases of plagiarism. And friends, then of course, this is another important thing. So most of the students in the Faculty of Commerce, including economics, use a few hypotheses. They develop a certain hypothesis, test them, based on the test results, they infer whether they accepted the hypothesis or rejected the hypothesis. This is the practice. This is a well-established procedure. So after the test, researchers, whether it is X or Y, state that null hypothesis has been tested and rejected. Hence, alternative hypothesis is accepted. Whether it is researcher X or Y, nobody can change the words. Everyone uses this in one type of research. Suppose the second one is null hypothesis is tested and accepted. All researchers use the same. Where is the plagiarism? But still, Urkund provided 55% of the similarity and 50%. And friends, like this, given certain statistics, say for example, occupation ratio. In the case of Karnataka State Road Transport Corporations, during the period of the pandemic, declined from 80% to 42%. This is a reality. Whether it is Mr. X or Y, whether it is researcher or the faculty member, anybody can use this 40 to 40, 80 to 42. This is the fact. How can you consider this as a plagiarism? 52% similarity, 54, 60. Like this, friends, there are a few shortcomings even in our plagiarism detection mechanism, and the Ministry of Higher Education, University Grants Commission and the service providers have to look into this and address them at the earliest in the interest of researchers, faculty members, students and the staff. And finally, yes. Now, if you have any specific question, you are free. Sir, please be seated. Please.
Impact of plagiarism and how it has to be modeled, all such things. But now many occasions what happens, if the plagiarism is proved and if it is beyond the limit, then the paper will be retracted. So what is meant by retraction and what is the repercussions of retraction? So my question is it going to affect the person who has published that paper and also the journal that has published that paper, like that?
Please,
thank you.
Please. Now, in the case of if the author is the faculty member, if he is the non-teaching staff, then the regulations specify the penalty depending upon the level of plagiarism, including termination, suspension of the employees. It also includes withholding the annual increments. In the case of researchers and the students, if the credit has already been awarded, he has already published. So in the case of researchers and the students, since they are not the employees, they clearly specify that you should not claim credit for these publications. And the journals are more vigilant about this because they have, it will have an adverse impact on their reputation. Therefore, they also take up this verification step rigorously because at the most of the journals, they have their own plagiarism check mechanism. Only when it passes this step, then it goes to the desk. When it is clear, then it will be referred to external. There. Any other query or the correct?
Very good morning. I think 12 years before I was sitting in your class to listen to your class. It is very nice. And I have a one doubt, sir. As I am doing a PhD here in Mangalore University, if I publish any paper in the course of my PhD work, I have to co-author my guide. In that case, if a paper has been increased more than 40% of plagiarism, I will be punished. What about the guide's case?
He will also punish.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Which is threatening. The reason as to why honest teachers are afraid of accepting the guideship because they copy from some other sources, submit the same. Now, if he fails to verify, he will clear this, then he will have to take the punishment. So it applies to both the candidate and I mentioned about the Vice Chancellor of a university. The researcher put his guide's name as the second author and it was published containing some portion extracted from other published works. Therefore, the Vice Chancellor, the research guide, had to resign from the Vice Chancellorship. Right.
Good morning, sir.
Very good. Please.
This is very nice session, sir. And you took us in a 40 speed, not in a high speed and not in a low speed. It's very happy. Sir, my question is, while you are discussing about the higher education's performance from last 1950-51 to and 2019-20, so most of the universities, and you quoted the Tamil Nadu, most of the universities are providing the doctoral degree by giving, and the candidates giving 4 lakh, 5 lakhs, and some candidates are doing the part time, and all the candidates are doing full time. So when these three categories people are come out from the institutions, are look it, I mean, they are seeing as the same categories. So this is the question, that is there any differences in treating in academic?
The only thing is you have to differentiate yourself from others by proving that your work is worth than others.
But most of the time, only the degree is matters, sir.
Yes, I agree. But the thing is, that is not the final. After degree, what you have done? What about the quality of the paper? Say for example, instead of publishing, please be seated, instead of publishing 20 papers in 1 or 2 journals, I don't want to mention the names, okay? If you publish 1 journal, 1 article in Finance India, in Economic and Political Weekly, now if you had published 1 paper in Finance India, normally the board gives more weight to it, because the quality of the journal, they don't look even into the quality of your paper. Your paper is published in Finance India, it itself indicates that your work is worth. Therefore, friends, don't bother about all these things. They are not permanent. And number 2, the second point is, the University Grants Commission has made it very clear, identified certain universities wherein all these irregularities are taking place. They are notified. Certain universities are not eligible to offer doctoral degree. So you must be very careful. Don't pay and get the doctoral degree. Even if you don't get the doctoral degree, don't pay, because you won't get the satisfaction. Ultimately, satisfaction is more important than other things. Then,
Good morning, sir.
please.
Sir, I have simple doubt. There is a software for plagiarism check, but for our satisfaction, in MSc and all, we were doing some papers, projects, and we were publishing the papers. We were checking online for plagiarism check. Is that correct or wrong?
That is wrong.
Wrong.
But there is a provision
Okay, sir.
to undo this. You can check initially. You can check immediately how to undo this. There is a provision. Better you discuss with your librarian who is in charge of this plagiarism detection too. So we have the students' work detection provision. You can initially check, then undo. Otherwise, when you submit your paper finally to the journal, there will be 100% similarity. So you have to undo this.
ಸರ್,
Please,
ಈಗ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪೂರಕವಾಗಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಸರ್.
please.
ಈ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜಸ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೂಡ ಕನ್ನಡ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ತಮಿಳ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಮಲಯಾಳ, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ರೀತಿಯಾಗಿ ಪ್ಲಾಗಿಯರಿಸಮ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು? ಈಗ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಹಾಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ವಿಧಾನಗಳಿವೆಯಾ?
ಇದು ಈ ಪ್ಲೇಜಿಯಾರಿಸಮ್ ಡಿಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಟೂಲ್ ಏನಿದೆ, it applies to all languages sometimes. But the point is, in the case of certain languages, material available in web is very less when compared to English. because most of the works are not uploaded except a few PhD theses. Because in say for example economics, commerce, management, lot of books are uploaded, soft copies are available, theses are available, project reports are available. But in the case of languages like Kannada, ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬುಕ್ಸ್ ಯಾವುದೋ ಅಷ್ಟು ಅಪ್ಲೋಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಯು ಆರ್ ಆನ್ ದ ಸೇಫರ್ ಸೈಡ್. Any other query?
ನಮಸ್ತೆ ಸರ್.
ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.
ಸರ್, ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿ ಬೇಸರ್ ಮೇಲೆ PhDಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಆಯ್ಕೆ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೆಯುವಂಥ ತಾಂತ್ರಿಕ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆಗಳಿಗೇನಿದೆ ಅದು ನಾನು ಬರೆದಾಗಲೂ ಅಥವಾ ನನ್ನ ಕಮ್ಯುನಿಟಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬರು ಬರೆದಾಗಲೂ ಒಂದೇ ಥರ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಇದನ್ನು ಪ್ಲಾಗರಿಸಮ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದು ಸರ್?
ನಾನು ಹೇಳಲ್ಲ, ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ.
ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಸರ್ ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ಬೋದು?
You have to modify the tone of your presentation. That's all.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
The tone. Now, even both are working on the same subject, grasping is different, presentation will be different, and therefore there is no question of a plagiarism. Suppose if there is any, then you try to change the sentence, restructure. Whoever submits early is the safer one. Subsequent, you have to do all these exercises.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Hello sir, is that okay if we use Grammarly, word tune, paraphrasing and all? So does it give any plagiarism?
Again, you have to see whether it is uploaded. Okay, number one. Number two, grammar again, whether you are using US English or UK or Indian, because there are lot of differences. Better use your own language.
Good morning, sir. As you said, plagiarism check softwares, they are not ultimate. So is there any way we can, by ourselves, check for the plagiarism, or do we have to compulsorily give it to
You can check, but you have to undo this. Otherwise, now when the university authorities upload your thesis to Urkun, then it gives 100% similarity. Okay?
So it's okay to do it by ourselves. But
No, that is not acceptable. Okay? No doubt you are sincere, but Urkund has to certify, not yourself.
I'm really sorry if at all I'm interrupting. If at all you have any question, you can write and give it to us. Because the time schedule for the next session is already over, that is why. I'm really sorry for that. Coming into this session, I'm really glad that we have got such a scholarly resource person, Dr. Madhigowda sir. He had given it, it is like what I felt is, he had given it in a capsule size. Within stipulated time, he has covered all the details related to, I don't know all the details, but it was, for me, it was like an ocean. So I'm really glad that that I can be a part of you, like such a great person, really, because this is the first session I'm participating, sirs, and I'm really glad, because to give a personal touch, I'm also a research scholar, and coming to know about the regulations, plagiarism regulation, sir was telling, even if we are telling the hypothesis, whether we have rejecting or accepting the null hypothesis, all the researchers will be using the same terminology or the same sentences we will be using. And for those reasons, if at all our research is getting rejected after so many years of our hard work, it will be really a bad thing for us. Now we got an idea, okay, these many things we have to focus on. So really thanking from my personal side, and our Department of Education is also really thankful to sir. In order to give a formal vote of thanks, I invite our emerged student, Srisha.
ಜೀವನ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಕತ್ತಿಯ ಮೇಲಿನ ನಡುಗೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಕೇವಲ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದು ಅನ್ವಯ ಅಲ್ಲ, ನಮ್ಮ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಸಂಶೋಧನಾ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಷ್ಟು ನಾವು ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕು ಎಂಬಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಜ್ಞಾನ ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ನಿಂದ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ ಎಂಬುದಾಗಿ ನನ್ನ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಎಥಿಕ್ಸ್ ಇದರ ಸೆಷನ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟಂತಹ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಜೆ ಮಾದೇಗೌಡ ಸರ್, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಹಾಗೂ ಡೀನ್, ಅಕ್ಷರ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟಡೀಸ್ ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗ, ಈ ಬಹಳ ಅದ್ಭುತ ವಾಗ್ಮಿ ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ ಅವರನ್ನು ಈ ಸೆಷನ್ ನಡೆಸಿಕೊಟ್ಟದಕ್ಕೆ ತುಂಬ ಹೃದಯದ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಗಳನ್ನು ನಮ್ಮ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ನೆಲೆಯಿಂದ ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ನೀಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ಸ್ಮರಣಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ನೀಡಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಸರ್ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿನಂತಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಸರ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.